Ocean Tuiju Nagada, hello, how are you all doing? This is the first video in one particular type of creative process that we're going to use to develop your one digital story that you're doing this semester, or more particularly, one scene from a digital story. The first part of any creative process is invention, and this is where you come up with the main idea for your story, or the main idea for a character, right? Something that is really going to inspire your story. And this isn't always easy, right? To come up with the idea for a story. And so I'm going to show you one particular creative process that can help you do this. Now, again, this is one creative process, right? You might have a different creative process that works for you, or you might find that tweaking this process works for you. But this is just one example of a way that we can invent a story. So I'm going to suggest that fan fiction is a good way for inventing a story. Furthermore, you can change from one medium to another. And so, for example, this blog that I have named Bluegrass, it was inspired by the videos that you see behind you here from the video game No Man's Sky. And this video game sets you in an almost infinite outer space, where you don't know who you are, right? And this gave me a lot of leeway in building the character, right? Because this character doesn't know who they are. And so I could really create the voice of the character in this blog and explore that. But this is just one example. So if you are a big fan of, any movie, Harry Potter, The Matrix, what have you, and you can think about what stories go on in that world that aren't told on the screen, or in the gameplay of a video game. And you can transpose that to another medium, right? So I took this video game that I have played a lot of hours in, and decided to write a blog based on it, right? And you all have taken Intro to Digital Storytelling, so you know how many different types of digital stories there are, right? And so we could take one digital story that inspires us and create something in a different medium. But when we're thinking about these stories that inspire us, whether it's movies, video games, cartoons, anime, really any kind of story that can inspire you, we only see a little bit of that story, right? There's so many other stories going on, or possible stories that could be going on in that world. And this is one way that I think that you could come up with a good invention for your story. Take a look at that blog. I won't read it here, but take a look at that blog. We know that a story you all are familiar with the literary web for creators, right? Because we use that in the intro class. But we're going to pick just a few of those terms that I think are the most important for inventing our story, for starting the creative process. And you all know, really, the simplest way to define a story is by its plot, right? It has a beginning, middle, and end. And if you go to the plot page again and refresh yourself on what a plot is, you can see that there are a lot of different ways to shape the plot, right? For this class, you have two options, really. You can create a short digital story that has a beginning, middle, and end. But you can also, if your story is longer, like more serialized, like this blog, right? This blog that I've created, Bluegrass, is just kind of the beginning of this person's story. If you want to have more of a serialized story like that, then all you need to do is create one scene. And this could be, the one scene option might also be good if you're doing something very complicated, a long, complicated story. This is just one way that I think that we can think about inventing our story, right? The fan fiction way. Again, if this works for you, that is awesome. If it doesn't work for you, no worries, right? If you have a story that's already brewing in your mind that you've been inventing, or that you want to do for this class, feel free to use whatever method will help you invent your digital story.